All right, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready to get into game number 2? I don't even know if you can hear me. You can hear me. Good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to game number 2. I'll make sure that the music is fixed up this time around. I've been trying a new thing with the playlist, guys, and there we go. It obviously has had some bugs and some issues, but we are ready to get into game number 2. We have switched sides, so we'll see if that takes effect. This time around, though, Prankuru, huge player in the top lane, making plays across the map, really kind of saving Pixel Beach and a little bit of Renduri in that bottom lane as they did start to struggle a hair, but especially that Graves coming out as a damage dealer in the late game was massive. What do you think for Fire Ferrets that they can use to really kind of shore up some of the holes in their gameplay and help them to pull into a potential win in game number 2?
2 words, Jake: vision control. Really, their macro was decent. The plays that they were trying to make were decent, but they didn't have vision on everybody, and they failed to take into account that Prankuru was going to be able to show up to almost every fight using that Shin ultimate. So they really had to both take into account that there's always going to be a man advantage. They have to bring 1 extra man to every fight because there's always going to be an extra man coming from D5, and they need to have vision on who they are going on who they are making the plays on and the entire area surrounding it, so they don't get collapsed on. Many times they would try and make a play, it would either go slightly in their favor or a little, or it would just fizzle out, and then they get collapsed on by the rest of the members of D5, and then at which point they would lose out entirely, losing objectives and everything. Their early game overall was very, very good. Hashcode banning away Xyle Flame's Graves from last game. We're like, it saw that quadra kill and we're like, we don't want any more of that.
If he can bring that late game, we would prefer not to have to deal with that. And I absolutely agree. Vision control is a big deal, especially when it came to some of those early movements by the Graves towards the top lane and then getting the plays around the Baron. Now, early game, Fire Ferrets held a very solid advantage around those double Infernal Drakes, and that was huge. However, when it came to the later stages of the game, all vision control and map control was around that Baron, and it meant that Degenerate 5 could play better, respond faster, pick people off, oftentimes getting a 4v5 type of fight after someone had already been finished off, and they had a lot of chase power between the Graves dashing forward, Ari's ultimate, even Kaisa being able to jump to the back line. We saw a great engage where she came around from behind the Baron pit and started executing people that were caught between her and the rest of the team. The other thing they had that was a little bit sneaky was that movement from the Tahm Kench, able to not only move across the map. We saw a huge play where they went to the top lane to pick up a turret and got a huge chunk onto the inhibitor turret as well, but can move with the Kaisa to behind enemy lines, allowing her to hop in and start to do some heavy damage. However, she will be banned away this time by Degenerate 5, not interested in having her this game around, and instead, Degenerate 5 says, let's break up that combo of the Morgana Caitlyn and take Morgana into the Caitlyn this time around.
And the Caitlyn, first picked by Hashcode, going to give that back over to King Kong Gun, who did a very good job with it, especially into the later stages of the game, using his traps to good advantage. So giving him that comfort pick one more time, a very powerful champion with no bad matchups. Homemade Pancakes going to pick the Janna. As you said, the Morgana combo going to be broken up a little bit. And to be honest, I like the Janna more. It's Morgana Caitlyn is very potent if you can execute it well. However, they never really made use of it in the laning phase. The Tahm Kench being too good of a counter, they never really got an advantage off of the Dark Binding combination with the Caitlyn trap. So I like seeing the Janna as she's just overall a more useful champion throughout the course of the game. Jarvan the 4th picked up, most likely for Homemade Pancakes in the jungle. Xyle Flame going to be on the sack this time. We saw him on a carry in the last game, but this time going to be bringing the house down with a tank.
And this might be due to some research, as it was Fire Ferrets that actually banned Zac away in the first round of bans as their third ban. And so taking it away may have been able to know that it was something the Xyle Flame enjoyed playing, and this time around decided to ban away some other more priority bans for them, and instead that means that Degenerate 5 get that Zac. Such a strong engage, very powerful, being able to lock up multiple people. He'll not only can he hop in, but he can drag your team back into his team as well. And with the Ahri on top of it, they have a lot of movement, a lot of engage, and now they are truly stacking the CC with the Dark Binding from Morgana, the Tentacle Slat from Zac, and the Charm from Ahri, and that's only 3 picks so far.
Indeed. We've got Orianna and LeBlanc banned away, both incredibly powerful champions right now. Orianna more for the late game scaling, and LeBlanc's lane matchups are just really, really good for her right now. Season 4 LeBlanc having come back, as we stated last week. Ahri picked up by Avidity one more time. Didn't get the best shake with Dosab last time, but this time he's like, I want to try it again, guys, and we'll see whether Dosab decides to go with the Echo or if he wants to shift it up with something a little better toward the late game.
And this is also exciting from the side of Fire Ferrets, really quickly, was just the fact that it was Degenerate 5 that banned away Jarvan in the second ban phase before before Fire Ferrets could pick for their jungler, which means both junglers had their initial junglers banned away game 1, now getting to play them game 2. We'll see how much of an effect they can have, as it may be Ashe being locked in by Pixel Bleach, adding a little more CC to the lineup. Why not?
Yeah, a little more CC and at level 6. Also, Ashe is probably the biggest poke person in the ADC role, minus Caitlyn. So the Caitlyn-Ashe matchup, some people have even considered Ashe to be a soft counter to Caitlyn. Like, Caitlyn doesn't have any real counters, but Ashe is the closest it gets. She is very close in range with Caitlyn, so Kate can't really abuse her, and the poke out of her W is a lot easier to hit and deals more damage than Caitlyn's Q. Also costs less mana, so they're about even in shove, about even in range. However, Caitlyn does out damage her in the late game, whereas Ashe brings to the table that ability to pick people off. Gerbil once again hovering that Teemo, and is he gonna lock it in?
He does! Alright, so not only 2 things about this. King Kong Gun has locked in a zillion for the mid lane. He played Echo very well last game around, but couldn't get enough damage to actually assassinate and finish off kills towards that mid to late game. Had a lot of issues. He'd get people low, but couldn't quite finish them off, and ended up being a little bit too squishy in the later stages of those extended team fights. But this time around, Gerbil decides to confidently pick the Teemo into a blind pick, as it is Renduri having locked in Irelia now for Prankuru, trading that to the top lane. So it will be Teemo versus Irelia. Wow. All right, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that.
Indeed. But do you want to run through champions and their players real quick before we give any analysis?
Indeed. I was just updating my roster sheet over to the side, but let's go ahead and roll through now. I will be shouting for Fire Ferrets, hash code, picking up the Teemo for that top lane, which is kind of crazy to think about. Homemade pancakes on the Jarvan in the jungle, Dosab with the Zillion in the mid lane, King Kong Gun on the Caitlyn once again in the bottom lane, 80 carry role, great job last game, and Gerbil with the Janna support in the bottom lane, maybe a little more effective this time than Morgana was.
And for Degenerate 5, we've got Prankuru on Aurelia in the top lane, Xyle Flame taking Zac in the jungle, Avidity on Ahri in the mid lane, Pixel Bleach taking Ashe in the bottom lane ADC role, and Renduri rounding it out with Morgana in the supportive role.
So give it to me, Teemo versus Irelia. He's got poke, but she's been reworked. How does it all lay out?
I'm expecting Irelia to wipe the floor with Teemo. I don't see how Teemo wins this matchup. Aurelia just deals way too much damage, and it's burst damage, and he can't blind it. Just straight from Qs, like, Teemo's health pool isn't high enough to trade effectively with Aurelia, and just giving him that matchup right away, I'm thinking there's going to be a very, very, very fed Aurelia in the top lane. Now, Hashcode might surprise me, but the matchup, while it is range versus melee, technically Aurelia has some really good gap closers and some really good CC, and if she gets snowballing, it's really hard to slow her down. Yeah, I'm giving a heavy matchup advantage to Irelia over Teemo. However, Hashcode might surprise us. In the jungle, Jarvan has a lot more gank presence early, I'd say. I feel like Zach really has to hit level 3 before he can do anything. Jarvan can do effective level 2 ganks and really brings a lot more DPS to the table on the early levels. Zach, on the other hand, can gank from odd angles. He's very difficult to ward against. You end up having to put vision in spots that you otherwise wouldn't normally have to, and that's the price you pay for playing against Zach. In the mid lane,
I do want to comment really quick on that. That's actually the arena that we saw Fire Ferret struggle in last game, was that vision control. Not only did they sometimes go in blind like Dosab on that Echo towards the bottom lane, red buff, and ended up giving his life because of it, lacking in that deep vision. And now with a Zach, you have to place it even deeper because he can't gank from those odd angles and from such a massive distance away. They really need to put a lot of emphasis on getting those wards down and staying safe, only engaging when they know that either Zach isn't around or they have a numbers advantage. And for Jarvan, Homemade Pancakes, he's so much more pressure is on him to do well this game because they're completely lacking in any sort of tank other than himself. You have a lot of damage on the Caitlyn, a lot of damage on the Zillion, potentially a lot of damage on the Teemo, but outside of that, Jarvan is that front line, solo, and it is all up to him to try to peel and keep the members of Degenerate 5, like the Ashe Arrow, like Ahri Assassination, like massive Zac Hops, from getting onto those squishy carries.
Indeed. And the thing that I'm worried about here is Teemo's pretty much a split push champion right now. And if he starts losing against Aurelia in lane, they really don't have a top lane or anybody to answer the split. So I'm very concerned about this pickup. However, Hashcode just might be, the Teemo overlord, and he's just going to completely destroy the laning phase. But I don't see how that happens just looking at the champions. And Prankuru, we've seen multiple weeks in a row that he's no slouch in that top side. However, from a matchup standpoint in the bottom lane, I would definitely give a little bit of credit over to Caitlyn and Janna from a poke perspective. And then, of course, if Morgana lands a binding, it's going to be a lot of damage coming through. But I think that if Janna is landing shields and Caitlyn's trading effectively while she's protected, she can out-trade and get an advantage over this Ashe. However, Pixel Bleach, it is a decent matchup, probably the best matchup you're going to get against a Caitlyn. So, and of course, you have the level 6 engage with Ashe, land the ultimate, and then Morgana walks up, binds, and then follows up with ult. That should be a free kill if they hit all of their skill shots. At least a flash bomb.
At least a flash bomb. And this, one of the things about Zillion that sometimes gets kind of sidelined is the use of that ultimate, bringing people back, that it does kind of play into mentally almost a sixth character, a sixth champion when it comes to those later game fights, especially when he's got it on a quick cooldown. If a fight goes for a very long time, say that Ahri gets that assassination off, Zillion just throws that down onto Caitlyn, gives her a couple of seconds before she comes back up, and now she's ready to deal damage once again. The two things on that is that you can't move when you're being respawned by Zillion in the middle of a fight, and so there's potential that for your team to be pulling back while you're left alone to come back up right in the middle of 4 or 5 enemies who are just going to immediately kill you. And the second thing is that in these games, especially for King Gong Gun, as we saw in the last game, uptime is so massive. Being able to constantly be a presence, dealing that damage, hitting somebody at least is critical. And when you get both killed and then ulted by Zillion, it takes you a while to come back up, which decreases your overall uptime and means that eventually you're just not going to be doing as much damage as you could be. So it's going to be heavy on them to keep Ahri from getting that assassination off in the first place.
Hmm. Of course, having that extra life is going to be incredibly critical because whoever is doing the assassination is going to have to think twice. Usually, if you're an assassin and you can trade your life for the enemy ADC, it's worth it. However, when there's a zillion there's something that goes through the back of your mind. You have to go, okay, if this person is revived, am I going to be able to get out? So if Ari were to overcommit for King Kong Gun and get the kill, but he gets revived by Zillion, and then Avidity goes down, then that's a 1-for-0 trade in the favor of Fire Ferrets.
That's very true. And another thing to keep in mind is that there are characters like that Ashe that cannot move very quickly. It's going to set up a lot of opportunities for that Zillion to get the double bombs down and stun them up and get not only a lot of damage, but hold them in place long enough for the rest of the team, either that Teemo or the Caitlyn, to deal the damage to finish that Ashe off. And the Teemo blinding dart isn't super effective, but as long as he can place it either on that Irelia or the Ashe, it could be really strong if done at the most critical time, especially on the Ashe. As soon as she hits that W and she's just spamming out those triple auto attacks over and over, if you blind her in the middle of that, you can potentially negate all of her auto attack damage throughout that entire cooldown of her ability. So we'll have to see if that hash code on the Teemo can be able to land that at the proper time. There's opportunity for Degenerate 5 to try to come around from behind, but there is a ward from Fire Ferrets already starting off, so they're going to see them coming in. Good play from Fire Ferrets getting that ward down.
Here's some brush cheese, but it is going to be Gerbil and King Kong Gun wisely taking that route down there safe. They had the vision. King Kong Gun probably just going to walk up, yep, and they're straight to lane. I was wondering if they were going to land the Q onto them. But no, just goes and uses it straight on the wave, gets the shove advantage, and wastes a little bit of mana.
And that's one of those things that Caitlyn is, as we talked about last game, just much better at that siege, shoving people in. And it's dangerous to be caught under a turret by a Morgana Dark binding on your side, just because it gives the AD carry time to hit you. It's even a little bit more dangerous to be caught under a Dark binding on the enemy's turret. And so they're going to have to be careful when it comes to pushing and shoving underneath that turret to not get hit by, especially after level 6, either that ultimate by the Ashe who can set up Morgana, or the opposite as well. Now, another thing to very quickly note is that, ladies and gentlemen, we have been truly blessed by the RNG gods. It is another Infernal Drake to start this game off, so the damage is going to continue to stack up, and I'm excited to see if Fire Ferrets can make it happen. In the top lane, Homemade Pancakes tries to get a gank down, but a nice double stun by Prankuru, really on a quick play with that spell, able to stun both members up and able to walk away free.
Now, Hashcode is playing this matchup very well. He used the fact that he was a lot stronger at level 1 range versus melee to start trading into Prankuru and chunk his health down. He's already cut out the health pot from Prankuru, so this is a possibility, a way of him winning this matchup, at least until the backs come through.
Xyleflame jumping into the mid lane, but nice speed burst from Dosob, able to just speed himself to safety. And that's something nice about having that Zillion, especially when it comes to some... Oh, he did. Okay, I was about to say, some of the slower ganks by the Zac, you can sometimes just walk away. But blind onto Irelia puts Franco with very low health. There is a Jarvan who decides to cancel the recall, sitting just to the side. Now, that is the recall started by the Irelia. He's going to wait for the opportunity to jump in. We'll see if he is able to slow it down. He is pausing it, gets the slow as well. First blood to Homemade Pancakes on the champion that he wanted to play. Banned away from him game 1, able to pick it up in game 2.
Yep, Dosob going to be using those fancy feet, the speed buff to dodge out on Xyleflame. This is going to be Hashcode getting some damage down on that tower, and the teleport going to be forced away from the Irelia, trying not to lose out on too much CS or XP. Hashcode probably going to back right here, as he does have the Ignite rather than the teleport.
Nice King Kong Gun moving up as well. However, I'm changing the name from here on out. It is no longer Fancy Feet when it comes to either a Zillion or a Janna. It's Fancy Floating, because neither of them, their feet are touching the ground. They are just hovering slightly. So the Fancy Floats from... the Zillion or Janna going to be dodging all of the skill shots, at least so far in the game. But Homemade Pancakes catching out a member of Degenerate 5 once again. Xyle Flame forced to flash over the wall, but the Zillion is here as well, so he's going to try to finish him off. Now, low mana, the jump from Xyle Flame, the bomb lands onto the... I guess it was him, but the animation disappeared after he finished the hop. That was quite interesting. Charmed up from Dosa, but no likelihood of him dying as Avidity has very low mana. But he himself with low mana needs to be safe.
Yeah, Reeves has been complaining about the mid lane changes recently. Basically, they made there be very little mana regen in the early... They changed Doran's ring, basically. It used to give you 5 bonus mana. Hold on, is Homemade Pancakes going to force out? No, he's not. He does not see the Zac and does not manage to force out the passive, unfortunately.
I think he assumed the Xyle Flame had backed up a lot further than he had, and I think the Xyle Flame with 0 vision, it's now Degenerate 5's jungle's turn to have almost no vision in his side of the jungle. Didn't know that Jarvan was taking away the wolves. Maybe could have assumed it, but they kind of just don't see each other. Xyle Flame able to back away, and the wolves stolen by that Jarvan. However, he has now taken control of the bottom side of the map, which still gives favor to them for the Infernal Drake if he wants it.
Teemo still trading very well against Prankuru and standing near Mushrooms, so that if he does commit for an all-in, Prankuru would be forced to take damage from the Mushroom as well as slowed, which gives Teemo a chance to kite it out. Hashcode playing this very well, making use. All of this is really percolating onto that level 1 advantage that he had.
Yeah, blind as well, going to be pushing Prankuru back. And Hashker doing just a good job of weaving in those blinds. But I think the main thing that we're watching is that quick footwork of using the Teemo speed boost, which a lot of people don't use simply because it's not... it doesn't give you any extra damage, and when you're kind of against a Darius who's extremely slow, there's no real reason to use it in the first place, or even a Nasus who's just slowly lumbering up. There's no real
Xyle
reason.
Flame with the steal, and it is level 6. Homemade Pancakes going to try and go in, but he has to keep in mind that the ultimate is, and both bombs are going to miss, so there's not going to be any follow-up on that, but Xyle Flame just walks up and smites away the red buff.
Sneaking it away, not giving it all to Homemade Pancake. Says, you take my wolves, I take your red. Now Renduri moving up, could try to bind up the Jarvan, will be successful at it, and here comes the CC, 3 members strong, chaining it beautifully, and Homemade Pancakes has nothing. Felt confident against the Morgana. Renduri says, all you got is a bind, otherwise I can get out, but it leads into Pixel Bleach's Enchanted Crystal Arrow straight into the Charm from Avidity due to a lack of vision. Now in the top lane, the flash used by the Teemo trying to get some damage onto Prankuru and not nearly going to be enough. Even with low mana, Irelia still finishes him off, and Prankuru starting off strong 1-1-0.
Yeah, and that is very concerning because he had the... Teemo had been walking a very tight line throughout this entire laning phase, basically pushing Prankuru to the point where that if he wants to engage, he runs the risk of dying. However, now, when Teemo gets back to the lane, he may just all in straight away from full HP, because that's going to give Prankuru the optimal amount of damage to injure the Teemo and maybe come away with a kill.
He does have that Sheen now, so will be dealing that extra damage. Root onto the Jan in the bottom lane. She's just going to shield herself up. One of the things to keep in mind, though, because that's happened a couple times now, is that when Gerbil is using that shield on the Janna, the King Kong gun is not shielded, so there's potential for like this volley, and Renduri moving in. The shield is still on cooldown for another couple seconds. King Kong gun down to half health. There's the shield, but the damage has already been done, and Degenerate 5 have done this several times, which continues just to force King Kong gun to either chug potions or get chunked out. Starts the ultimate just to deal some damage to Renduri. Obviously not building much armor on that support Morgana.
Yeah, Caitlyn's ult probably the most disappointing ultimate in the game. In the late game, deals significantly less damage than one of her auto attacks. Yeah, so Hashcode once again in the top lane, poking onto Prankuru. Managing, once again, starting to get him a little bit lower. The stun does not hit, so that's going to deny the engage from the Aurelia. And we're back to the bot lane. Hashcode still walking that very dangerous
Ooh,
tightrope.
flash from, I don't even know, flash forward from the Janna, trying to knock people back, but the black shield from Pixel Bleach keeps him safe for the moment, and he's going to fall as Xyloflame comes in, getting that long-range gank over the wall where Fire Ferrets didn't have vision. I think they just saw Zac starting to come down, but it was too late. King Kong Gun still alive, trying to hold with these minions. Homemade Pancakes comes in as well, but it is a 2v3. Xyloflame getting that tentacle slap, which is not tentacles, it is all about the jelly, finishing off one. And now can the Jarvan finish off Xyloflame? One more auto attack might be enough. No, it's not, and minions aren't gonna help either, as in the top lane, Prankuru with the poison ticking away, going to survive with just a sliver of health. And Degenerate 5 come out massive, even though it is just on the edge of death for several members.
Indeed it is, Jake, and as I was saying, it looks like Teemo finally fell off that tightrope, and Xyloflame, after healing up a little bit, might end up, they're going to end up starting up this Infernal Drake, and that is going to be a substantial advantage for them moving on toward this late game.
One of the main things about this is that last game they had a pretty small advantage early, but were able to make some massive macro plays, which eventually led to them winning the game. Now they're starting the game off at 11 minutes with a 3,000 gold lead and Infernal Drake. This game should be a lot easier to close out unless they make some really, really bad plays.
Exactly. This is Degenerate 5's game to lose right now. If they don't make any mistakes, and I'm really anticipating Prankuru now to start running away with this top side, and just straight up engaging onto Teemo every time he shows.
Yeah, 2-1 doesn't even need the Trinity Force. Instead, the Teemo's early game pressure has been shut down, unable to finally deal the damage that consistently will shove Irelia out of lane. Instead, Irelia able to tank it up. I love the purchase of that Doran shield early. Just heals up a lot of that Teemo poison damage. He did go with that Stinger, so he's looking for those quick auto attacks potentially to try to burn down the turret. But you can put all the mushrooms in the top lane you want. If that Irelia can kill you straight up in the middle of the lane, there's not too much to worry about. In the bottom lane, the Renduri continues to land these Dark Bindings on Janna, burning her mana, burning those shields, making it easier for the team to gank as Zac heads toward the bottom lane.
And pretty much all of Xyloflame's ganks have ended in either blown sums or kills. So he's been very effective on this Zac. Being in the side, wherever he's gone, his team has made plays happen. Renduri blowing flash in order to get the summoners out of the enemy bot side. And King Kong Gun and Gerbils are standing way behind their turret, knowing that Xyloflame is down on this side. They set something's up, and they are not having any of it. They're giving up pressure, and it looks like the wave is going to shove toward them. So it's not going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, Homemade Pancakes helping to clear wards in the bottom side. They are still struggling a little bit on vision, but they have done one good thing this game, and that is keep better vision control of their own jungle. You can see control in the top side, control to right next to the river for the mid lane, control in the bottom side. They're keeping a little bit better vision across the map. King Kong Gun, second time now, dodging that Dark Binding, chunked down about a third of his health, so needs to be safe. But they know a little bit more about where the Zac is going. They're going to see him now in that top lane. Teemo needs to be safe. He's actually still staying forward, now starting to move back as Zac tries to gank. Misses that initial slap, does get the knockup as well. The flash from Hashcode means that he's safe. Dark Binding onto the Jarvan the Fourth. Homemade Pancakes actually getting some good damage onto Renduri. Janet using the heal to try to keep everybody alive in that engage, as the Ashe was able to use the volley to great effect, slowly chunking out the members of Fire Ferrets, and they're forced to disengage.
Yeah, so in the bottom side, while Homemade Pancakes did get a decent engage onto them, Renduri's ultimate really stuffs that and almost turns it back around. They do blow the Ignite, and Gerbil then has to respond with the ultimate to keep them from going down. They are going to be pushed back in on this bot side, and I'm expecting the Caitlyn and Janna to back right after this, and yes, it does look like that is going to be what's happening. Pixel Bleach knocking down the wave and is going to try and shove in one of their own, but they do get their backs canceled. very quickly. So King Kong Gun going to stay in the bottom lane. Now, I do have to question this pickup from Zillion in the mid lane. Dosob was really the anchor for his team last time in the early game. Yeah, most of the advantages they got were around his play on the Echo, a more roam-based support or a roam-based mid laner. Hold on, we've got it engaged.
Yeah, Gerbil flashing as well in that bottom lane. All summoners burned very quickly. All 4 down, 4 fire threats in the bottom lane, and they may just have to watch this turret be chunked out. As a really good engage from Degenerate 5 puts them that low enough that they are going to have to back out. Zosob in the mid lane, and Ignite is burning away. Doesn't feel he needs to use the ultimate, though, and wisely keeps it safe. In the meantime, though, Avidity trying to chunk out a little bit of damage on J4, just forcing Homemade Pancakes to back up. And we did see originally Prankuru has been able to 1v1 Hashcode in the top lane. And I don't think we'll have too much issue this time around. We'll see. Throws down the ultimate. Disarmed for Hashcode. He does get the blind, but it's not enough. And Prankuru does the damage.
Yeah, and this is where things start spiraling out of control. I think, yes, Prankuru does have Trinity Force, and it's going to be all downhill from here.
Oh, Dosob with an excellent flash. Zylflame tries to get over the wall, however, not going to be able to finish him off. Now backing up, Homemade Pancakes doesn't find the knockup, but does find the ultimate. The jump already finished. The Zillion tries to get the double bomb down, only going to deal a little bit of damage. I don't think Zylflame has once had his passive blown. Avidity knocked down to very low health, but not even close to being finished off, is able to get back up in time.
They did still have the Zillion ult, so I'm very surprised they didn't chase that a little bit more, knowing that they'd have an extra life no matter what happened. Zylflame with the Warmog's armor, looking for another engage.
Yeah, gonna come in. I don't think he actually has Warmogs. I think that's just the passive on the Kindle gen. No, hold on. Where was he getting that?
Yeah, where's he getting that HP from?
Huh. I'm actually very confused. That was
a lot of regen, really fast. I don't know where that's from.
Huh. It looked like he had a Warmogs. Okay, well, he's going to be headed towards the top lane with the Morgana, as well as Pixel Bleach already up here. Getting chunked down fairly low with that Teemo Mushroom, but Dosob is here solo, trying to hold off against 3. Gonna have to use the ultimate on himself, now being resurrected, but versus 3, there's not much he's going to be able to do to escape this one. Pixel Bleach gets the Black Shield just for the shinies, and able to clean that one up. A little bit of a dodge here from the Irelia. Prankuru, sorry, doing a good job avoiding the fight from Jarvan, as he did miss his initial knockup and will escape. And once again, Degenerate 5 continuing to make some really good moves across the map. But more than that, their members just continue to escape again and again at such low health.
Zylflame seeing all of the chasing down onto the bot side of the map and knowing he has his bot lane very close to his mid laner with priority, he uses that opportunity to go for the Rift Herald. Now, I don't know if you know, Jake, but they just changed the Rift Herald. And I really approve the change, to be honest. The Rift Herald does substantially more damage to towers. It also deals less of its own health, like it doesn't hurt itself as much when it hits the tower, deals more damage, and it's a lot easier to kill. If you hit its eye, the eye does a lot more to the Herald, so it's a lot easier to counter if you use it wrong, but it's a lot harder to shut down if you are in a really bad
Homemade Pancakes in a bad spot this time around. He does go in thinking that it's a 1v1 with the help of Hashcode off to the side. He does get the blind onto Prankuru, flashes over the wall, stays alive for the moment. Nice mushroom slowing down Renduri, and now Hashcode running to safety. However, we'll find Pixel Bleach off to the side. The volley not going to land. Prankuru picks that one up. The Caitlyn did start the ultimate in the mid lane. Avidity low health, but the Cloud Drake has already been finished by Degenerate 5. A huge thank you to the 13 bits from Lucky Friday 13. Appreciate that a lot. As Zylflame with the Black Shield comes into the mid lane, trying to set up for some CC. The Gerbil doesn't even need it. Oh, that is from Dosob getting the resurrection out of the ultimate down. Double bomb's not going to land on anyone, and the Janna going to fall regardless as Zac pulls in King Kong Gun And the the ult from Ashe going to lock up the Zillion as well. And that's going to be 3 kills to Degenerate 5. They're so far ahead. And the beautiful layering of the CC again and again.
And here comes
now
the new Rift Herald.
with the Rift Herald, going to be taking out this mid lane turret. Boom. That's 1 turret down, moving on. They're not even going to worry about it. Several members, 3 still in the respawn pit of Fire Ferrets. In the bottom lane, it's all onto Prankuru, who just flashes to safety as they tried to stop her from taking the bot lane turret. And this game is so completely in the hands of Degenerate 5.
Yeah, and see, Shelly now takes towers a lot faster, and she takes less health to do it. So if you don't focus on her, she's going to knock down your structures. It's the fight in the mid lane.
They're going to try to get some damage on her. The heal used from Caitlyn, very low health, doesn't even matter. Still taken out by that Defiled Soil from the Morgana. Flame flashes in, trying to finish members off. Will get help. Irelia pick up 2. Ashe cleans up the Zillion as well. Homemade Pancakes trying to get to safety for the moment. The charm is going to guarantee it from Avidity, and the middle inhibitor will guaranteed fall. They could potentially move in to start getting some Nexus turrets as well, as that was a full team ace from Degenerate 5.
Disgusting.
They have done a beautiful job being able to murder every turret and every person. Execution on the Zac just to spice it all off. Will back off after getting that Nexus turret very low. But that is 4 turrets, in a very short period of time. 4 turrets and an inhibitor, almost a 5th turret on that Nexus. And holy crap, you guys are going to have to defend Rift Herald in every game you play now, because that was insane.
Yeah, the thing is if you hit the eye, it goes down so much of its HP though. So using Rift Herald improperly and just like throwing it into a side lane for no reason, it's not going to do anything. Like 1 hit on its eye and it does nothing to towers practically. However, if you use it well after an ace or something like that, you can just knock down 3 turrets in the mid lane just for free.
And that is going to be those turrets falling. They now have to defend mid lane inhibitor, a little bit easier to defend from the siege minions than others. And they do have Caitlyn, who, especially when she gets a static shiv, though she's not on it yet, can do some really good wave clear and enjoys that farm coming in cleanly through the mid lane. But 0-3 for all the members of bottom lane and mid lane. 0-5 on that top lane, Timo. This has just not been the game for Fire Ferrets.
No, it is not the game for Fire Ferrets, not at all. While they did have an advantage in the beginning of the last game, this game, all D5 all the time. And while their vision control has been better, their composition is just not that great. Dosov being the source of their advantage in the last game, it reminds me of the World Championship last year, where on the very last game, where it was all the game 5 and SKT could come back, it's match point. What do? They put Faker on Karma.
Oh, Karma in the mid lane. Yes, that was just insane. It is going to be Jarvan Homemade Pancakes that's probably going to be cleaned up here very quickly. Throws down the ultimate because he knows he's already dead, and it's not going to do much. Hash code now caught out as well, and the chase continues from Degenerate 5. Nice little bit of an ultimate from the Zillion over the wall, but it's just going to lead in the rest of the team, and that's what I'm talking about. When you are stuck in a single place with no ability to escape, it's almost a question of why you would even use the Zillion ultimate. So we can go ahead and, as the game is pretty much already over for Degenerate 5, it's even Caitlyn behind enemy lines trying to pick up the red buff in her own jungle, because all of the jungle is enemy lines. And there's the game. It's actually even a surrender as well, so they cut off my time to talk about it. What could change for Fire Ferrets is they did a better job of getting that vision in game number 3, because we are now moving on to match point between these two teams. Imagine if it had been a Maokai in the top lane this game.
Yeah, really, it's just a pick type thing. While Hashcode played that matchup very well, played it a lot better than I thought he would, it did end up being 0-6 in the top lane. Regardless of him playing it well, he didn't get an advantage for himself overall. He was down in CS at the end of it. So the Teemo pickup, well, it doesn't offer anything to the team unless the only thing that Teemo does is it's supposed to remove an enemy champion from the game. You take the opposing top laner, you deny them CS to the point where they can't affect the game either. So in chess, it would be kind of like sacrificing one piece for another piece. It's like, well, I don't want you to have your rook, so I'm going to sacrifice my knight to get it. That's kind of what picking Teemo is. I'm going to keep your top laner, whatever it is, your Fiora or whatever. I'm going to remove them from the game by playing Teemo. That's the idea behind it. So, and from a compositional standpoint, maybe putting Dosab on a champion that can actually carry. The Echo, or at least roam and help his team, because Zillion's a support, basically, in the mid lane. It's the same sort of thing as Karma mid. You play Zillion because of his ultimate, not because of the amazing gameplay he brings to the team. And Dosab really outlaned Divinity in game 1, and he needs to be in a position where he can do so again.
I completely agree. One of the main things on that is that Zillion, if you really think about his overall abilities, has 1 damage ability. Whereas Echo, almost every ability deals some damage to the enemy.
Or stuns them so he can deal more damage.
Exactly. Whereas with Zillion, even if you get the stun down, you really have the cooldowns that mean that you're not going to be able to just keep stacking that damage. You're mostly using that stun to set up the rest of your team to do that damage. And if you're in a team in which you have a super massive front line, say an Alistar, Jarvan, and a Maokai or something in the top lane, that can take all of the damage initially, when one of your front line dies, you can then use the ultimate to bring them back up and keep the fight going. That's a different story. But as it is at the moment, even with Jarvan going in, you think that there's so many opportunities for the Zillion to throw a bomb onto Jarvan's head before he goes to dive, and yet their coordination and play just wasn't really there. So we'll have to see if they can pull those together. We are going to take a very short break, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back into game number 3 as Degenerate 5, now 2-0 in this best of 5, has moved on to take it to match point. We'll see if they can 3-0 Fire Ferrets in game number 3, or will Fire Ferrets come back and secure at least their first game in this best of 5. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for sticking around.